It feels like all the news I've read about Battlefield 5 these last few weeks hasn't been about what's going to be in the game at release, but what's not going to be. That's because Battlefield 5 will be using a live service model. Various features, modes and mechanics will all be added post-release for free. But as curious as I am about the long-term content plan of Battlefield 5, I'm currently more interested in what will be available upon launch. What am I paying for on day one? At the time of recording, I still don't know. There's no clear list of release day content in terms of maps, modes or features. And there's no clear roadmap of future content either. The problem with this live service model is that there's no guarantees. It's no different than purchasing a season pass without knowing what that season pass will include. You're essentially paying in advance for content, but you don't know what that content is, or when it's likely to be released, or even if it will be released at all. Like I said, there's no guarantees. Let's say Battlefield 5 doesn't meet EA sales projections. Do you really believe they won't scale back their live service plan? That concerns me. I'd feel far more confident purchasing Battlefield 5 at release if I had guarantees regarding future content. I understand that things can change during development, and they may be wary to commit to content plans long term. But I find it hard to believe they can't at least give us a year one type of roadmap, so we're clear what content to expect alongside a rough release schedule. Maybe we'll get something like that closer to release. I hope we do, because I'm not going to pay in advance for content that EA may decide to cancel if Battlefield 5 doesn't sell as well as they'd like. It's a shame I have to talk about this and not just the game, but it's an important aspect of Battlefield 5 that can't be ignored. Okay, so how do I feel about the actual game now I've played this beta? Graphically, Battlefield 5 looks great, but that was always to be expected. And performance overall is really good, aside from a couple of occasions where I join a game in progress and get some nasty frame drops forcing me to quit. There is also an issue with the visuals on the Norway map. It's a very visually busy map, and I found that playing it for more than an hour or so started giving me a headache. I think it might be the snow effects, which do look really good, but it does clutter your screen at times, making focusing upon the environment a bit of a strain on the eyes. Now obviously not everyone will suffer this issue, but it was a problem for me. The lighting in some interiors could also be very dark, and this was a real problem on the Rotterdam map. There are places on that map where you can sit where you're practically invisible. One time I just crouched in a corner whilst about 4 enemy players stood right in front of me, completely unaware I was there. Of the two maps available in this beta, I'd say I enjoyed Rotterdam more because there seemed to be a better balance between long and short range combat, whereas the Norway map felt like a sniper's paradise. I don't typically like to play as a sniper, mostly because I'm really bloody terrible at it, but I frequently did on the Norway map because of how it's designed. There's lots of open spaces, lots of long corridors with easy shots you can line up, and there's nearly limitless angles. That said, even the standard assault class machine gun is surprisingly effective at long range, so there certainly needs to be a little more balance in between the various weapons. I would have preferred to use the semi-automatic rifles as an assault class, but I felt they were objectively worse than a full auto machine gun, even at long range. I'm not sure about the ammo supply mechanic, because right now it just means you'll immediately head for an ammo and health station as soon as you spawn into the map. Your starting ammunition is pretty weak, roughly only half of what you can carry for your primary weapon. It feels like it should start you on full ammo, and then you can use the ammo stations or squad supplies to keep you going as you fight. Speaking of squad mechanics, the ability to revive your squad mates, even if you're not a medic, is a neat way of trying to get people to work together, and when they do work together it's pretty great. But as you'd expect, not everyone seems to care, and I lost count of the amount of times someone on my squad ignored a revive even when it was perfectly safe to do so. Now, to be fair, a lot of players may not be aware of this new system yet. Combat in general feels pretty good, but movement isn't as smooth as I'd like. I frequently got stuck on scenery when attempting to vault or climb over various objects. You're not quite as agile in combat as the trailers seem to suggest. At the moment I can't say much about vehicles because I only got to try them out on a handful of occasions, and they don't seem to be a big factor in these beta maps. The other main feature that I was able to test in this beta was the Fortifications System, whereby you build defences upon the map, and it's a pretty fun addition, and it can actually be very effective in some locations, allowing you to block access points for enemy infantry, for example. I also like the destructibility of the environment. It's pretty exciting when you're in a house and you look out a window to see a tank lining up a shot just before the wall explodes in your face. And it's great seeing the entire house come down, or when you drive a tank through a house yourself. Now, I'm not quite decided on the time to kill right now. At times it can feel a little too fast, but at others it feels just about right. I think the key with time to kill is that you want to feel like it's not just a game of who sees who first. There has to be a moment, even a small moment, even if it's just a fraction of a second, where you can react to being shot at and either return fire or seek cover. Now, because there's no kill cam in the game, you also never know who shot you or where they were, so some deaths can feel rather sudden and random and unfair. Lag can be a bit of an issue in the beta as well, which doesn't help with the problem. There are moments when you'll shoot people multiple times, but it doesn't seem to register. And there are other times when you think you've taken cover and avoided getting shot, only to suddenly drop dead due to some kind of strange bullet delay. It didn't happen often, but it was annoying when it did. As far as general bugs go, I saw a lot of animation issues, mostly noticeable on dead bodies, which would glitch out and often spin around, which was kind of amusing. There's also a really horrible audio glitch, and it seems to trigger when you're nearby buildings which are collapsing, and it's just very loud and very unpleasant. So overall, yes, it needs some polish, it needs some balancing, but I'd say it's not in terrible shape. So I guess the real question is, did I enjoy the beta? Overall, yes, I did enjoy the beta. But did I enjoy it enough to drop 60 quid on just the standard release edition of Battlefield 5? Well, not quite, not at the moment. Especially when their live service plans are still so vague. I really want a clear list of release content and some kind of guarantee regarding future content, at least for the first year. If EA and DICE can provide that, so I know exactly what I'm paying for, then it's certainly something I'll consider. I mean, I've not actually purchased a Battlefield game since the original 1942, so I'm ready to return to the series. The question is, can EA stop from fucking it up? Because that's what happened with Battlefront 2, and I really hope the same doesn't happen with Battlefield 5.
Well done, we have taken objective Anton.